Here we go. Hello and Nin. Mikwick for joining us tonight for the opening gala live Q&A with the directors from the short films you just watched. Mikwick to APTN, our opening gala presenter. My name is Niki Little, and I'm the artistic director at imagineNATIVE. Joining me this evening, we have Theola Ross, Jack Steele, imagineNATIVE, Banchi Hans, Michelle Derosier, Jolene Banning, Hinaleimoana, Wong-Kalu, Aisley Tinglet. Welcome everyone and congratulations. I'm really sorry for mispronouncing your names, but how is everyone tonight?
Very well, thank you.
Good. So I wanted to see if everyone wouldn't mind introducing themselves. Maybe we can start with Theola, if you could just give a little bit of insight into your practice, into yourself.
Okay, yeah, my name is Theola Ross, and I'm from Pimichika Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. And the film that was tonight was that I actually directed and wrote, Êmîcêtôsêt, Many Bloodlines. So I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Thank you. And how about Jack?
Hi everyone, I'm a Wiradjuri man from the area of Orange in New South Wales, in Australia, obviously. Yeah, I directed Between Two Lines. It's a story that was loosely inspired by the story of my great uncle Bert, who was an Aboriginal soldier in World War One. The idea of him meeting a German soldier was totally fictional, but it's used as a proof of concept for a feature film that I'm going to do about his life.
Amazing. Next we have imagineNATIVE.
Kia ora mai tātou, kia ora na koutou katoa toa, ko tōku ingoa ko Ngariki Ngatae. So my name's Ngariki. I come from the nations of Ngāti Uri, Ngāti Arera from the island of Rarotonga, Ngāti Rupe from the island of Aitutaki, and Ngāti Akatawira from the island of Mitiaru. And I'm the director of Te Waunui, and thank you for watching. I'm very honoured to be here.
We're so happy to have you. And next we have Banchi Hanuse.
I am Banchi Hanuse from Nuxalk territory, which is located in so-called British Columbia, Bellacoola, British Columbia, on the west coast of Turtle Island, or so-called Canada. And I directed the short Nuxalk Radio, which is the radio station that I also am the manager of.
Amazing. And we also have Michelle Derosier and Jolene Banning with us this evening.
Hi, my name is Michelle Derosier, Parashwabi Benisik, Indigenous. Magizi Sagega Mondonji, Makwadodem. I come from Eagle Lake First Nation in Northern Ontario, Turtle Island, and I'm the director and writer of Audrey's story.
Ozawa Benisik, Indigenous, and Nemki Waju Nindonji, imagineNATIVE. My English name is Jolene Banning, and I come from Fort William First Nation, and I was in Michelle's documentary.
Thank you. And we have Hinaleimoana, Wong-Kalu.
Ano e te aloha ia katoa pauloa e tia naina katoa e launa nei, malo nui te katoa launa ani te iahi. O no o Hinaleimoana, Wong-Kalu. I am Hinaleimoana of Hawaii, here specifically on the island of Oahu, and I have family throughout these islands, and tonight I am humbled to share this time and space with everybody on behalf of my film, Kapaemahu.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Alisi Telengut. I said your last name terribly. I'm so sorry.
Hi, my name is Alisi. I'm the director of the short film, The Fourfold. And I'm a Canadian artist and of Mongolian origin. So I'm of Mongolian and Telengut nation. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you.
Congratulations again to everyone. And I just wanted to say, Mikwick, for sharing your stories with us and continuing to support imagineNATIVE. And we're so happy to be here for you. Theola, I was wondering if I could start with you. With such a personal film, how did you determine how much to let the viewer in? And if you had any advice for any emerging documentary filmmakers?
First of all, I wanted to congratulate imagineNATIVE for their opening gala. It was great, and the beautiful films that Êmîcêtôsêt was a part of. I'm truly honored. They were all beautiful films. I guess I really wanted the pull a lot of emotion out of the film. And there was, it's already an emotional topic. So there are great visuals already as well, too many to choose from. So we really wanted to be tender in our choices of the visuals and the content. And we also wanted to be gentle with the fact that Kiwetan, our child, she had autonomy in the film as well, because I mean, she's born into this world and she's already on film. We could have had this film a feature length if we wanted to, because of the content and how many layers and the amount of information and issues and certain content that comes out of all this with infertility, being parents, being a queer family. But we condensed it into a nice short film, and I'm happy about it. And choosing it to be a short film was a good choice. And any advice that I give to emerging artists, I feel like I'm an emerging artist myself, but I feel like just continue writing and just keep on writing, and take from the internet. Really, honestly, that's what I did, is learning the structure of film. I really love short films. So just the structure of short films, if that's what the genre you're interested in doing, just look on the internet and write just those ideas, throw them out there, and someone will bite. I promise you.
That's very sage advice. And I think, it's great that spaces are going online now, so there is more access and more content out there. Jack, I was wondering if you could speak about your period piece. It was such an epic work. Was it difficult logistically to produce that? And also, who are some filmmakers that have influenced your practice?
Yeah, well, first, I just want to say thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this festival. I've always wanted to be a part of this festival. It's probably my favorite one out of all of them. And all the films that I watched today are so incredible. So I feel really honored to be a part of this amazing selection for the opening night. So thank you. For the first part of your question, was it difficult? It definitely was. This is my first short film. It's actually my first drama production. But I was fortunate that my producer, Mitch Stanley, was able to pull together a pretty amazing team. He managed to pull in Warwick Thornton, who's one of Australia's biggest filmmakers, to come in and shoot the film for me. And he was like a really excellent mentor throughout the whole thing. So I think I owe a lot of my success in the film to him being able to help guide me, and to Mitch as well. And logistically, it was actually pretty challenging. We had to shoot the whole thing in 3 days. And originally in the script, it was meant to be a lot more sort of like hot and dry and like really, kind of arid in a way. But then 3 days before we were meant to shoot, we got a notification that we were going to have 3 days of like torrential rain. And the producers and the investors were like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And so I just grabbed the script and scribbled out hot and dry and just turned it to wet mud. And then we just shot the whole thing. I think we had probably maybe like 8 hours of sunshine over 3 days. Mm-hmm. So if you go onto my Instagram, there's heaps of like behind the scenes videos of like crew members up to their knees in mud and, and stuff. And then for the second part of the question, who inspired me? I grew up watching a lot of movies because I wasn't very good at sports, and a lot of my small town that I lived in was very sport oriented. And so wasn't really into the sort of real macho-ness of it all. So I watched the movies a lot. And I kind of grew up with all the classics like, you know, Spielberg and Ron Howard and stuff. And then it wasn't until I was about 16 where I decided to move to Sydney and go to film school that I started to really explore Australian cinema, and started to discover people like Wayne Blair and Warwick Thornton, Mitchell Perkins, and really started loving their work. And then, you know, fast forward to today, and these guys are like people that I get to hang out with, you know, and work with, and then have them sort of mentor me in like their own way. So it's pretty incredible.
That sounds wonderful. And I just think I love the network that comes with artists and people making work, and just how international also imagineNATIVE is. And it's so lovely that we all can connect this way. Ngariki, I was wondering if you could speak to the use of nature in relation to the cinematography in your piece. It's such a stunning, impactful perspective that you bring forward. And for me, I know like the part that just, the text that read "A Generation Without Elders" resonated so much with me. And I was just like taken there instantly.
Yeah. Yeah, so that line in particular, that was a really strong, one of the things we really strongly discovered. And I think we instinctively, we feel that as Indigenous people anyway, and that relating back to historical trauma. So in this documentary, we were thinking of our ancient trees in the same way. They, as you discovered in the film, suffered many atrocities. And the trees that are left are muki, are lonely. So in relation, your question about the visuals of cinematography, I really need to acknowledge our cinematographer, Fred Renata, who's amazing. But I think more than just the skill that he brought to the table, it was the fact that we just had this shared visual language, and it's so much easier to make films with people who just get it. From the beginning, I wanted to Waunui to talk about Te Kauri dieback, which is a real problem we have here in Aotearoa, but I wanted it to be purely from an Indigenous perspective. There's a lot of information in the media about Kauri dieback, but for this film, I wanted that Indigenous voice to be unencumbered. So from an indigenous perspective, you know, when you think of a tree is just not on its own. It sits in a system. You know, obviously there's the ecosystem that's around it, but there's also its whakapapa, its genealogy. You know, there's its ancestors, there's its descendants, and the style of the cinematography and actually the music was all relating to that. So it was really important for me that the perspective that we were watching the film from was like we were one of the children of Tane, of the forest. And also because rongoa Māori is so much, traditional Māori medicine is so much in te taha wairua, in the spiritual realm. It was really important. The strong theme really was vibration. So both in the visuals and in the sound design and the music, it was really about capturing that vibration. It was really important that it was just immersive, really, and just a small glimpse into a world that for most people, we will never have the opportunity to really be inside that world. And I just wanted us to have that little window. And yeah, and I think the other real important thing that we spoke about from the beginning with our kaumātua, Tohe Ashby, Hori Prata, Fred Tito, Tariki Manihira Henderson, was a taonga tuku iho. So something, one thing we spoke about was when we're all gone, this film will be left, and our children and our children's children will still get to see it. So what do we want to leave behind for them? What are the signposts and the markers? What is the direction that we want to point them in? And so it was important for me that the message was hopeful and of healing and of life. Yeah.
Yeah, you can really get a sense of futurity in many of the works. And I think that's, for us, was such a strong point in the program collectively. I was wondering, Banchi, if you could speak to the presence of community and language in your work, and how has the radio station impacted the use of the Nuxalk language?
I think the biggest obstacle in our community for people learning the language, like right now we only have around 5 Nuxalk language speakers remaining, And the biggest obstacle has been the psychological. So I think that's how the radio has helped our community, is just to make it okay to speak the Nuxalk language, okay to learn the Nuxalk language, and that it's safe. And that it's relevant, and yeah.
The film really like it gets you go, like it really amped me up and it got you going, and I was just like, I want to be a part of this. And so how did you come from, I guess, like wanting to make the film?
It's actually a part of a 10-part series produced by the BC's Knowledge Network, and it's about untold stories of BC buildings. And they were like really eager to tell the story about our trailer that we're in. So they gave us 2 minutes to tell the story about Nuxalk Radio.
It's so good. I think also learning a language is so difficult, and I like being in these situations, trying to learn new languages, not only imagineNATIVE, but congratulations on the work. And so next I want to talk with Michelle, and I was wondering if you could share with us your process when preparing to shoot for a documentary, especially with such an important story as Audrey's story.
Well, first of all, I'd like to also thank imagineNATIVE and your team for allowing us to share this story. This story came about a little bit differently. So the process has been a bit different than some of the others. So I think that with the Family Information Liaison Unit that helped Jolene in the film to find some answers about what happened to her aunt, I actually accessed the Family Information Liaison Unit for myself and for my grandmother that also died in the 70s. So that's how I came to working on this story. And I started to work with the Family Information Liaison Unit. And they wanted to do something. So I sort of talked them into doing a short doc to sort of let folks know that, about their rights, and about that they have the right to ask questions and they have the right to find answers, and that, the systems that are in place are responsible to give us those answers. And so I think that's it. It started in a very different way, and it was, it was a sort of a sacred and a painful journey for myself, and then it brought me to Jolene, and Filu had suggested Jolene's family story, and we live in the same community, and we're actually friends. And I had nothing to do with that and who the family that they were going to select from across Ontario. And it just happened to be a friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
And our family members were sort of found in the same area, and we live in the same place. So it was kind of, I don't think it was, any of this was by accident. And I just hope that, that somebody might be willing to speak up. We live very close to Sulakot from here in Thunder Bay. And, that, I don't know, but, but the process, knowing Jolene and spending time with her and her family, spending time on the land with them, and, doing our own sort of healing and together, and watching Jolene on the land and in the sugar bush, and the way that she's finding justice for herself and for her family was really quite beautiful. So, and I'm just going to leave it there and let Jolene speak.
Yeah. I think too, for me, like, it was really important, and I didn't realize that it was so important, but it was really important that these stories are told from an Indigenous point of view. And so by having Michelle tell this story, like help my family tell this story, it came across so with our voices heard. with our points of view heard. And I think that that's why it's really important to have Indigenous storytellers tell Indigenous stories.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think for me personally, it was so touching to see there really was a sense of a community voice. And I think you could feel the love and you can feel the care in that story. And I can only imagine or empathize in terms of like how that journey was for the whole thing. I was wondering if Hinaleimoana, if you would speak to the richness of your animation and how you came across this story. I think I'm not sure if people know sort of the dialect that is being spoken, and also just the representation is so important. And I was wondering if you could speak to that. You're
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you. I knew about these stones that are represented in the film from the time I was young, but in those days I didn't know the value nor the significance of them, because I come from an island group that has become so heavily American dominated and oriented, and the colonization that has occurred here has been extremely detrimental to the dignity of my people and my culture. Even my own people cannot necessarily see, well, there's many people who cannot see themselves outside of being quote unquote American. And what that resulted in is all kinds of elements, moments, and bits and pieces of our history that are either twisted or taught in ways to quietly suppress the truths and the realities, as well as the honor and respect of my people, my culture. And so later on, as I got older, I eventually learned about the stones. And one day during the filming of Kumuhina, a documentary that I was featured in, my colleagues Dr. Dean Hamer and Joe Wilson asked me about the stones, and they found it was just a really wonderful story, and thus began the journey of starting to tell the story again. Because, as I mentioned, we were not taught all kinds of stories. There's so many stories, but we're not taught these stories. Our stories are replaced by American foreign stories. And with American English, and with an education system and a political system that essentially forces everything out that is not American, you can imagine what that does to my people. Thus the impetus to focus on this story, to honor it, to uplift it, and especially because it talks about the understanding of Mahu, which would be somebody like me. And that's quite an interesting word in itself, because Mahu is not just transgender, but it is it's a spectrum. Mahu is applicable to both Kane and Wahine, or male and female. And Mahu holds that space in the middle, and it's a very encompassing middle. So for many reasons, we felt that telling the truth of this story was hopefully going to bring a different kind of understanding to a larger audience wherever the film would go. But that's my answer for you. Hope that I answered it okay.
That was great. And I love, bringing in the language too, and sort of explaining or furthering our interpretation of it is wonderful. Alisi, just one quick note. If people on Facebook want to ask questions, you can write them in the comments. I have one question geared up after this question here. But Alisi, I was wondering if you could talk about your practice and you know, I feel like the animation was so stunning. I was so absorbed into it. Even the tapestry of the audio was so remarkable. And I feel, and nature holds such a weight in your piece. I was wondering if you could speak to how you approach that and in relation to your practice.
Yeah, sure. So the film was animated by hand with painting and mixed with plants under the camera. I was inspired by the work process, the technique by the South African artist William Cantridge, but I feel like the process was more like making carpets, like weaving, carpeting, and then this kind of knotting and sewing this process. I know that weaving is like a tradition in indigenous cultures around the world, like carpet making, and it's always made by a woman, always made by hand, and there's always made by an individual. And the patterns and colors are recognized by the community. So in my work, the animation process by hand is like so repetitive, and but at the same time, the repetition and invention in the process, I think that it's like carpet making. It's a way of world making. So because so I'm weaving this kind of inherited themes and stories and ideas, and mixed with new ideas and materials. So that's what I think my process. Yeah.
And how long did it take you for this animation, may I ask?
Yeah, about a year, 2 years. Yeah, but I did some research on the ideas, so so that took some time. I interviewed my grandmother about all the nature worshipping rituals from Mongolia and Siberia. So through my work, I really want to reconsider and reclaim the idea of animism for planetary health, and because of the climate change and everything's happening. So there's a necessity to reconsider the ideas of animism. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I actually do have a question from Facebook, if that's okay, for Theola. The question is from someone that says, I loved your film. The representation of parenthood is so needed. What a lovely record for your family, and what a great encouragement for families and communities. How old is your baby now? And could you also maybe say something to the audience? Oh, sorry, that was a question for me.
Thank you, whoever that is. Thank you so much for that compliment. My baby, she is 18 months now. She's walking, running, talking, and I'm happy to say that she is using words, you know, like trying to talk, and it's in Cree. She understands mostly in Cree as well. So I'm so happy and thrilled about that. So
that's amazing. Yeah, it's so wonderful to hear that. And I'm so happy to hear that. I have a next question for, who is this question for? Hinaleimoana, actually. They want actually to know what program you used to animate your film, if you could speak to that.
For my film, that's one question that it's my next stepping stone. My role in this film was to direct the telling of the story, was to, and because this is my first animated film, here in my islands, I wear several different hats of leadership in the community. And so for this initial animated film, I wasn't the one to do all of the heavy duty lifting when it came to its making, but the storyline, the telling of it, and being the voice behind it was my role. And I would be remiss if I did not share the honor of the question with the names Dr. Dean Hamer and with Joe Wilson. I don't know where I'd be without them. And they're helping me to learn to go down the road. I'm sorry. I've been going through a lot in the last 3 days. So This is the first public engage that I've had coming off of the loss of my partner,
I'm so sorry.
who died 3 days ago. So, but to speak to the work that was done, I'd also have to honor Daniel Sousa, whose wonderful work with the animation and the art, the colors. The colors are taken from our traditional tapa print, the traditional bark cloth. And it truly is a collaborative effort. You know, so indeed, while I'm the one here that you're looking at, I share the space with others whom I continue to learn from. And with each passing project, I look forward to learning my next, my next step, my next goal. And anyway, thank you for asking me the question. And I'm sorry if that's not the best answer. I'm sorry if I'm also kind of out of it. I can't lie because this is a form of Native people. So, when we as Natives, when we go through loss, it's it's meant for so many things. It's meant to make us grow. It's meant to make us strong. It's just meant to be a lot.
Yeah.
But I know that it will propel me to my next project and be even, stronger and better. So thank you for having Kapaemahu as a part of imagineNATIVE.
Thanks for sharing that. And thank you for being so honest. And we hold space for you. And I hope you be able to connect with folks this week and to share in sort of that representation, because it's so important. And I think, just also speaking to collaboration, connectivity, there's a lot of different types of collaborations that I think a lot of the films honored, especially in Audrey's story. And I just wondered if anyone wanted to speak a little bit, just maybe some final thoughts for this evening. I can call on someone. Since you two are laughing, how about you, Michelle?
Well, I don't. I guess final thoughts would be just to say Chimigwich for allowing this safe space to happen every year. And although it's very different this year, and it took some learning, I was a little late to figuring out how to get online, how to get into this. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And so I just wanted to say thank you, and to all of the other filmmakers. Thanks for sharing your beautiful stories and your works, and for enriching our lives. So, miigwech.
Yes, miigwech, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. It was a delight to put the program together, as I mentioned. And remember, we're only at day 1. I invite you all to come back and join us tomorrow as we continue with some exciting programs, including the first day of our industry days. Be sure to check out the website each day for the festival schedule and look at all the good things we have planned. And on that note, I want to say miigwech again for joining us, and enjoy the opening party. Take care.
Kusana.
Thank you very much, Mandangu.